Hi, maayong adlaw sa tanan. So this one would be the last topic for your midterm. So this is included in the coverage for your midterm examination. Okay, so for this topic, we are just going to elaborate on creating your conditions, your logical expressions, and uh, and also let's elaborate on what are these control structures are for, specifically on the selection control structure. So since we have already done with FLs and the switch, so those are part of our selection control structure. So basically, we have three control structures in our C programming, no? So first is we have the sequential, next is selection, and then lastly we have the repetition. So in sequential control structure, so this refers to the line-by-line code that we have created sa atoang pag-program. So when we say sequential, so mag-base siya sa atoang line number. So as you can notice on your code blocks na ay line number dito ano. And then ang atong program will be reading that one first sa line number 1, line number 2, line number 3, and so on. Okay, so that is why it is called sequential. Now, there are times that we need to skip or we need to choose certain lines only to be executed sa atoang program. So that is when we will use the selection control structure. So selections control structures are basically using the FL statement, katong inyong switch, or the decision making na mga code. Okay, so sa selection control structure, we are using condition and logical expression to identify which statements are to be executed and which statements are not to be executed. So lastly is we have the repetition. So repetition is basically repeating a statement over and over again without having to code it repeatedly. Okay, so for example, we have here, okay, so example sa ito ang repetition, no? So we can use while, okay, and then printf. Okay, so let's say hello world or hello lang. Okay, so this line of codes will repeatedly print hello sa ito ang console. Okay, so dili na siya mo stop since I have indicated this condition nga while 1. Okay, so permintira na siya mag-loop sa ito ang console. Okay, so that is for the repetition. So anyways, repetition would be discussed during sa finals. But it is being introduced na sa ito ang control structure pa lang. So this discussion will focus mainly on the selection na control structure. Okay, so in creating your conditions and logical expression, there are two things that we need to remember. So first is condition that yields with true. Okay, so that is equal to integer 1. While false is equal to integer 0. Okay, so pasabot, if we are going to have a condition, for example here, natay condition no nga expression that x is equal to y, then this is, if this is true, therefore, naapo na siya value nga 1. Okay, so, ibali na siya integer value of 1. And if ever this yields as false, then we have the value of 0. Okay, so the same thing when we are comparing two variables using the greater than or less than. Okay, so it's either 1 or 0 na siya. Okay, so for example, we have here, let's say that we have x, oops. So we have x, wait, cancel. So let's say we have x is equal to 5 and then y is equal to 1. And we say that x is greater than y. Okay, so since x is equal to 5, so we can substitute 5 and then greater than 1. Okay, so this expression is true. So therefore, naa siya integer value nga 1. Okay, so that is how we are going to identify kung true or false ba ang ato ang expression. So an expression like this, no, so natin mga expressions that is more than tulo ka variables or more than 2 ka variables, then we will evaluate this one gikan sa left padong sa atong right. Okay, so kung wala siya naka-parentheses, then we will be starting from left to right. So for example, we have your x, y, and z. Okay, so let's assume that our x still equal to, wait, okay, so let's assume that x is equal to 3, and then y is equal to 2, and also z is equal to 1. Okay, so with the condition that we have, x is greater than y, I mean less than y, and then less than z. Okay, so we first substitute the values of this variable. So we have 3, 2, and then 1. Okay, so to evaluate this one, we have to evaluate first katong naa sa left padong sa atong right. So in this case, we have 3 and 2. So si 3 ba is less than 2. Okay, so since this is false, then it will return or it has the value of 0, so which is false. Now, kining 0, mo ni siya nga atong i-compare with the next nga condition. So we have 0 is less than 1. Okay, so which is true, so therefore, this condition has a value of 1. Okay, so mo na iyahang integer nga value. So if we are going to print that one sa to ang program, okay, so pwede kayo na siya na to i-print, but please remember that this condition is not applicable kung isulod na to na siya sa to ang if nga statements. So ang ato ang if statement will always compare duha ka values or duha ka variable, adisir siya and then magamit din siya og logical na to nga operator. So which is and or katong or na to nga operator. Okay, so dili pwede nga ilargo ni siya. However, if we just want to check on the returning values, no, kay pwede rin nato siya i-gamiton sa to ang printf. Okay, so the output for this one is 0. Okay, so in this case, so lahi naman na itong mga values diri ano kanabaliman din. So we have x is equal to 1, and then y is equal to 2, and then z is equal to 3. So unlike the example gaina, so si z og si y, okay, so this is 3 and 2, which is greater. No, so we have a value of 1. And then kining greater than 1, ato na ning ipaubos. And then ato na po ni siyang i-evaluate. So 1 is greater than 1, so which is false. So that is why 0 ang answer niya. So this example is different from the example gaina. Okay, kailahi man to og values ako ang gibutang. Okay, so we have 3 logical operators that we can use in our conditional or logical expressions. So we have the AND operator, the OR operator, and then we have also, okay, so we also have the NOT operator. Okay, so kano sa man ni mahimog false when we are using the AND operator. So remember that if two values are both true, therefore it is true. Now, if one value is false, so let's say that it's true and then the second variable or the second value is false, then therefore it will be equivalent to false or zero. Okay, so remember na nato that if it is an AND operator, pag naiisa ka false, then it is false largo dayon. On the other hand, the OR operator needed only one true para mahimo siya true. So therefore, if we have the first value as true, and then next is false, so this one will have a value of true. However, if false and false, then diha na siya mag-false. So this is the opposite of our AND na operator. Now, sa ato ang NOT operator, this only reverse the value of our integer. Okay, so for example, natay 1, so which is true, then iha na siyang i-0. And if it's 0, then iha na siyang i-1. Okay, so for example, I say that x is equal to 1, and then mag-add ta diri as ato ang program of printf. Okay, so %d, and then let's say not x. Okay, so the output for this one would be, so may output niya. So the output is 0. So since si x is 1, and then nag-add tag not operator, so i-reverse na niya or i-negate na niya, then we have the 0. So the same thing, if this one is 0, then therefore, ang iyang output would be 1. So how about if sa x na to is equal to 2. Okay, so if equal to 2 siya, therefore, pagamitan siya og not operator, we will still have the value of 0. So remember, kung magamit tag not operator, okay, so only 0 nga values ang mahimo og 1. And the rest, may it be positive or negative. So equivalent to 1 man na siya, and then ginegate ninyo, so it would be always 0. Okay, so that is for the NOT operator. Sige, so let's have the precedence of our operators. So first is the NOT operator has the highest precedence. So pinakauna siya nga i-evaluate no sa ato ang condition. So once makita na to na not, then unahon na to siya. Discern na dayon si and the next na dayon si OR. Okay, so mag-solve ta or mag-evaluate ta well from left to right sa ato ang expression. So we have here an example where age is equal to 10 and also height is equal to 45. And the condition and then the condition that set sa ato ang expression mo ni. Okay, so si age daw is less than 12 and height is less than 48. And then or age is greater than 65 and height is greater than 72. Okay, so first thing that we have to do is ato asa siyang i-substitute. No, so we're in age is 10. Oops. Sige, so sa age is 10, less than 12. Then we have the AND operator. And then the height is 45. Okay, so less than 48. Then we have or. So age is 10, greater than 65. So and height is 45, greater than 72. Okay, so ato na din i-check kung true ba or false. So since na may parentheses, so unahon sa nato si parentheses. Okay, so we have 10 is less than 12. Okay, so true or false. So this is true. So therefore, we have the integer value of 1. And then we have the AND nga operator. And the next is 45 is less than 48. So this is true. So therefore, we also have an integer of 1. And the next, dili na punta sa bikas nga parentheses. So we have age is, ilagay ni 10. So 10 is greater than 65, so which is false. So therefore, we have the integer value of 0. Then natala ng kopyahan ng AND. The next one is 45 is greater than 72, so which is also false. So we have the integer value of 0. So nahanap pa nato ng mga naka-parentheses. So 1 and 1. So therefore, duha ka true. So in AND operator, kung natay duha ka true, therefore, true ang ato ang answer. Okay, so therefore, ang atong integer value is 1. Okay, so or, and then we also have to evaluate 0 and 0. So duha ka false. And then we are using or operator. So that is still 0. I mean, and operator itong gigamit. So next one is we have 1 or 0 or true or false. Okay, so since we are using the or operator, okay, so we only need one false, one true para mahimog true ang ato ang statement. So therefore, naman tayo isa ka true diri So true po ang ato ang answer. Okay, so we have true. So mo na din ninyo ang final answer, no? So 1. So remember that when evaluating your conditions and logical expression, duha ra gyud ang ato ang possible answer. So it's either 0 or false, and then 1 for true. So maoro gyud na siya. So 50-50 gyud ang inyong chance of getting the correct answer.